got insulation!
In this video, I'm going to show you the process of how I insulated the roof in my old stone barn. This clip has very little to do with the ceiling, but I didn't record an intro video, and everyone loves sparks.
I've been insulating, putting the first layer of insulation in the tiny barn now for a day and a half. I've been putting this Kingspan 75mm in between the rafters up there. And I've been using the Gapotape to allow for the fact that none of the rafters are in any way straight at all. And without the Gapotape, it just wouldn't be effective at all. So I've invested in the Gapotape. I ended up buying 2 boxes of it. And I think that's going to be just about right. So I'm about halfway through the first bit of insulation and I've learned a load. So I'm going to explain the process I'm going through to put the insulation in, a few tips and tricks along the way, and hopefully you won't make the same mistakes as I have. I'm pretty done with digging, so I'm going to do a little bit of woodwork up in the roof. So each one of the rafters, I'm going to have to put a batten on, see that pink batten, to increase the depth of the rafter. So then I can put my 75mm of insulation in between each rafter. What I need to allow for is a gap in between the slates and the insulation to allow airflow. So I'm going to cut down some battens and then tack them on. So when I put that 75mm insulation in, it will sit nice and flush with the batten that's going to be attached on the outside.
I began by measuring the rafters above and below the purlin. I then cut the batten and screwed them onto each rafter.
So we've got these long battens that I'm going to use for the spacer, and as you can see there, they are 25 by 38. So to save a bit of money, I'm just going to split them all the way down the middle and then halve the amount that I need. Every penny counts.
To create the air gap behind the insulation boards, I used 25mm roofing battens on each side. These I secured into place with a second fix nail gun, ensuring I didn't accidentally puncture the roofing membrane. Once the air gap battens were in place and the red battens had been screwed on the front of each rafter, I was ready to begin fitting sections of insulation between.
I'm ready to measure my couple of boards. So the Gapotape, you're supposed to measure the board and then reduce your measurements at the top and bottom by 8mm. But the Gapotape itself, once expanded, can accommodate up to 12mm. There's loads of tolerance there. So what I'm going to do is I place it on the batten there, down at the bottom, and I'm going to measure that. So that's 34. So the one down at the bottom is going to be 332 mils, and then at the top 34, 332. Remarkably, this is one of the few straight ones, but as you can see, this rafter here is bent out like this. So even if I was to make the most perfect cut there, it would be nice and tight here, but at the back it wouldn't, and that's where the Gapotape really has been good. So I've got the measurement for that one. I'll then take the measurement for the next one, and then we'll go down and we'll cut, and I'll show you how I've been cutting them. So I've got my sheet of Kingspan outside, and I've decided to do all of the cuts outside, and the reason for that is because when you cut this material, see I've got my mask ready to put on, or deal with it, or if there's any dust, it's absolutely toxic as anything. You don't want that going anywhere near your lungs. So even when I'm doing the cut, I'm going to wear my mask, and when I'm fitting them, I also wear the mask as well. Basically just have been living in a mask for the last day and a half. So the second is obviously doing these cuts outside means that the other stuff, you know, the bulk of the dust will blow away. But just as a safety measure as well, I've got my circular saw with the hoover attached there, the vacuum, so that's going to suck a lot of the dust away again. So in terms of measuring, the best way I've found is I need 332, so I'm going to put 332. So I'm going to use my tape measure this way round, 332, make a mark there, just make a little indent using the end of the tape measure, and again there, and then I'm going to line it up using a straight edge, like so. I've just got a screw, just a mark. I did try with a knife, but it started going wayward, so a screw does just as good a job. So the next thing is I'm going to get all my PPE on. So I've made that initial cut with my circular saw, which is obviously going to give me a nice cut straight down that's exactly 90 degrees. So then I'm going to run my normal saw through, because obviously the circular saw doesn't go the full depth. I'll just finish it off with the manual saw. What I found is that if you keep the saw nice and not horizontal, because it won't work, but not upwards like this, nice and horizontal, and it just keeps the cut as horizontal as possible. As I'm outside, I'm going to give it a quick rub, get rid of any loose bits, but I've still got my mask on just in case. There we go, we can see we've got a nice clean cut. Obviously that's where the circular saw went and that's where I finished it off. Well, that's pretty 90 degrees, so I'm happy with that. And that's how I've been cutting these boards. It's an extremely efficient way of doing it. I'm doing 2 at a time. It takes me 3 to 5 minutes to make a couple of cuts, nice straight cuts as well, nothing rushed, but it means that there's fewer trips up and down the ladder and the whole system is nice and efficient.
So I've been insulating the roof using this Kingspan 75mm, and around the outside of each board I've been using Gapotape, which I was sceptical of, but actually in a building where the rafters are like this, as in nothing straight at all, they're absolutely, I think, essential. It wouldn't have mattered how tight the cuts have been, because the rafters are not straight, then the Gapotape's just been an absolute dream, to be honest. It's expensive, but definitely worth it.
So I've got my roll of Gapotape that I'm going to put down each side of the Kingspan, and it comes in rolls like this, and you simply roll it out along the length of the board, and then you cut. Okay, now at this stage it's really important that these surfaces here are completely dry and free of dust, or else the little wings here just won't stick. In order to speed things up, what I've been doing is, if you grab, you see I'm just peeling off, can be a little bit fiddly, sometimes better without gloves, but it's just not very nice on your fingers. So I'm unable to peel it. So in order to save a little bit of time, bearing in mind, if I don't have that big a space, but if you've got hundreds of these things to do, every little bit counts. So I found that if you grab both of the strips and you can pull them off together, save a little bit of time, but it all counts. If you try and pull too hard, then it will do that. You'll end up with a strip of paper. So we're now going to unfold the little wings here. And what I found is if you pull it nice and tight, you've got to make sure that they're equal on each side of the board itself. And then you simply fold it down. It doesn't need to be that tight, but just tight enough. And then run your hands up and down. And there we have it. all ready to go. Same on the other side. Okay, so we've got our piece of Kingspan nicely wrapped up like a nice Christmas present. And next thing is we're gonna just install it. So I've got my piece of Kingspan here ready to go into the roof, and all I'm gonna do is push it down in the bottom there, work my way up. And that's it. Lovely and tight down both sides. And there's going to be forms a nice vapor barrier as well. Just a really, really good product. Super happy with it. On to the next one. So I've split each side of the roof into two, split by this purlin. And this section down to the eaves is about 120 centimeters. And then the bit above is about 120 centimeters. The boards themselves come in 240 centimeters, so I'm able to just rip them down one end. So at the angle, you see at the top there, chosen an angle, I've worked out what the angle is, and then I cut that all the way down one of the boards, and then I can cut that board up into sections at 120 centimeter lengths. So for the bottom bit here, as you can see, I've done all the way along with the Gapotape. So the way in which I'm working now, I've basically sped up like 5 times as fast as I did when I first started insulating. The first thing I do is I'm going to do 2 boards at the same time. I know that sounds obvious, but I didn't do that at first. And by doing that, I'm obviously going to go down from the scaffolding back up just once and get 2 boards in. It saves loads and loads of time. Yeah, and that's at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. It's been a busy couple of weeks on the tiny barn conversion. As you can see above me, I've put the first bit of insulation in, 75 mils of insulation between the rafters, with obviously an air gap behind. I've also put in the lighting cables that are running beneath that. And we'll go up in a second and have a look at all that. Also, I've insulated that end there, which is nice. That's ready to be plasterboarded, which is very exciting. So I'm up on the scaffolding in the apex of the tiny barn, and you can look along from one end to another. I've insulated all of this using this 75 mil Kingspan in between the joists. So I've also run up some cables, so they're going to be coming up from the eaves, and then we're going to have one downlight up and over the eaves, another downlight here. So we've got 8 downlights in total, 2, 4, 6, and then 2 at the end here, and they're equally spaced. I've also, in terms of the electrics, you see I've created a little brace there, and there's a cable coming down that's going to be for a downlight that's going to be suspended from that point straight down into the living area down there. The final cable I've put in is this one, which again runs down to the eaves, and that's going to be for the fire alarm. So all in all, cables installed behind the insulation in the air gap. Here's the end wall, the end apex, so that's all nicely insulated as well, so that'll be plasterboarded. We're hoping to keep these bits of timber here, these 2 uprights, exposed, so obviously we're going to have a layer of plasterboard and then plaster, so it will only be just over 1 centimetre, but it will just add a little bit of character. As you can see, this timber's not looking the best, but I put some treatment onto it, some wood hardener. It's obviously had some woodworm in the past, but hopefully a little bit more sanding, a little bit more wood hardener and wood preservation solution, and that'll look quite nice when it's polished up. We're also going to be keeping as much of these timbers exposed as possible. So on top of this 75 mil, we've got another 75, and then plasterboard and plaster. And then, so we're going to have some of this beam exposed, so I'm going to have to make sure it looks quite nice. The easiest time to do that is is now. So I've put some wood preserver onto each one of the purlins, but it's a case of sanding it down and making it look nice now. It'd be far easier to do it now than once the plasterboard is on. So I'm going to do some sanding and see what sort of finish we can get on that. It is a before video of the woodwork, the internal woodwork. Do some sanding.
Once I'd finished sanding, I treated the wood with a preserver. This spray method was by far the easiest method, but a mask is absolutely essential.
So I'm up on the mezzanine and I'm just doing some further work in the roof. The main thing I'm going to change from my existing plan is regarding the airflow and the apex of the roof. After much deliberation, I've also contacted a fellow YouTuber, Steve the Roofer, who I actually emailed him with photos of the roof, and he got back to me the next day really and just gave me an overview. He actually did a video of himself explaining what he'd do in this situation. I've also spoken to a few other people and had a look at other YouTube videos. I don't have any venting tiles on this roof, but obviously behind the insulation that I've put in, there is a cavity to allow air to pass behind the insulation. However, when it gets to the ridge, what I'd done initially is made sure that where the initial insulation meets the ridge, I've made it really tight there. So the downside of that is it doesn't allow any airflow at the top. And ideally, from what I can understand, the best thing is to have constant flow of air going all the way up to the ridge and all the way down to prevent moisture build-up in that cavity. So the long and short of it is I'm going along painstakingly cutting some of the insulation that I've already done away to actually create a gap to allow air from one aspect of the roof to pass to the other, just increasing airflow in the cold roof. So initially what I'd wanted was a triangular apex that just goes straight to the top, so it's nice and sharp, so the finished plasterboard is a triangle at the top. However, with this new plan, it means that I can't do that, but I'm not too bothered, because what I've done is I've measured a few of these pieces of wood that I've put on an angle. I've had a few sizes now and just sort of weighed it up, because the other thing that it will interact with is the skylights, so I'm limited by that. So what I've done is I've decided on this size of wood. I've cut it that way, so flat instead of that. The advantage of this is that there's more, because these rafters don't meet up with these rafters, actually finding a fixing for the plasterboard is going to be a little bit challenging. So I've got now more surface area in which to drill into at the top. The other advantage of doing it this way and putting these up in like this is it allows airflow where my finger is, just there, all the way down. But also, if I ever wanted to run other wires along the top, then it allows me to do that as well. So I've measured this angle. It's roughly the angle of where the two rafters meet at the apex, and I've just set up a little jig just on my saw down there at the right angle, and just knocked out 12 of these to go up to be drilled into. So as you can see there, so this is before I cut the chunks out. These initial insulation boards are really nice and tight up against the ridge. However, that is blocking airflow. So what I'm having to do is just go along and cut a gap from each side, and then that will allow airflow above this piece of wood and hopefully reduce the chances of condensation. So if you can see above me, what I've been doing is taking away the top couple of inches of the insulation. Initially, it was very tightly packed up to the the roof up to the apex. What I've decided is, so it was all looking like this, really tightly up to the apex, but what I've done now is I'm just chopping away the top section, and then I'm going to install these little noggins at the top all the way along, and thereby creating airflow from one aspect to the other aspect. So I've just finished putting in these little triangular bits in the top, so that will ensure that there is airflow along the top. It's a bit annoying because I spent a long time making sure these were really nice and tight up against the joist, but actually it's better now that there's going to be airflow. So I'm up on the edge of the mezzanine and I was just going to put the insulation along the top, but then I remembered at some point I'm going to put a balustrade on the edge. So I need some fixings, some place to fix that are strong within the apex. So what I've done is I've joined up these two noggins with this one, and then simply just run an extra bit of timber just down to the purlin, and hopefully that will then be lined up with the edge of the mezzanine, so then when it comes for me to put any sort of verticals in from the edge, I can then drill straight into this and it's a nice strong fixing. I'm glad I remembered that. I'm up on the mezzanine and I'm just doing the insulation for the apex of the ceiling. So what I've had to do is cut this funky shape out of some PIR. The way in which I did that was I've got the angle finder on here, so from that aspect to the right to the top. Then I set that on my circular saw, and then I cut in as far as I could with a circular saw, finished it off with a hand saw, and then measured it, and that's what I've been left with. Obviously there are these intermediates here to allow the airflow in the apex. So my plan is to screw into those. I'm also going to put some expanding foam just over there just to stick it up just as a separate measure. So I've marked on where they're going to be. I've got the 3 screws ready. I might put some other screws in as well, but for now 3 screws with the little spacers to distribute the weight. Yeah, so I'm gonna see how that goes. So after a lot of jiggery pokery using different pieces of wood, etc., I think now I've got a system whereby I can frame the Velux and make it ever so slightly flared at each aspect and still have it tying in nicely with the remaining bit of insulation, the 75mm that I've still got to put on top. So I've had a couple of iterations, including this, Frankenstein's monster, whatever that is. That didn't work. The other thing I wanted to ensure is that I can get as much insulation around this, because obviously the more insulated this is, the better. These Veluxes come with an insulated collar anyway, but obviously I'm going to extend that with 25mm insulation as well. The way in which I came to this conclusion was I've actually cut these pieces of board to act as plasterboard, roughly the same thickness, slotted them into place, and then I can sort of see exactly how it looks once these boards are in. I've decided upon an angle that I think I can achieve on each of the aspects. It's going to be slightly more at the top, but these 3, 1, 2, 3 sides, I've got at this angle, which is a few degrees more than 90 degrees, and the hope is that it will just let in a little bit more light. Obviously there are restraints, like this, the foam collar itself restrains the plasterboard from going much further over here, but there is a little bit of play. So I've got this angle, I've then lined it up using the edge like that, making sure that all aspects are a similar, there or thereabouts, angle. And then I've created this weird looking frame. This is a bit too much really, but I'm going to keep it and insulate behind it, insulate all around it. Yeah, so that's it. Let's have a look at exactly what I've done. So down at the bottom, we've got this N-shaped bit, which is the bit that I actually started off with. I've got another 75mm of insulation to come out here, and then plasterboard on top. Obviously, all the way around here, I need to be able to fix the plasterboard securely. So it starts off with here, and then I've run 2 roofing battens up either side. And then at the top, I've simply got a couple of 2x3s that I've just cut to the depth of the insulation plus the batten. So about 100mm either side, then I'm able to fasten all of that on. Now I've got all of the angles down and I know that it all fits correctly, I'm actually going to bring all of this frame down to the ground. I'm going to screw it all together, make sure it's nice and secure, and then fix it up in the right position in place, just so I know that everything's true and all the angles are correct. Right, so I've finished the frame for the Velux for the plasterboard to hold on to. So I've got these 2 blocks of wood at the top, holding the frame at the top, and then it's simply driven into the purlin at the bottom. So this angle down at the bottom is a little bit more aggressive than these angles, and hopefully the angle that I've chosen is okay for the frame. So I've made the frame on the mezzanine on the floor to make sure it's nice and straight, and then I've offered it up and checked that it's equidistant from either side, and then obviously the top and bottom they're going to be different anyway. So, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. It's taken quite a while, but I've got another one to do once I get the scaffolding back up. So hopefully this will be. There's been a lot of learning, so I'm hoping that the next one's going to be slightly quicker. I've been deliberating for a long time as to how to put my downlights into the PIR insulation. I've contacted the suppliers of the downlights. They haven't got back to me within 2 weeks. I spoke to my electrician. He says just cut a hole in the PIR. I then chanced upon these, which are Thermahood TH095. They're effectively for roll insulation, so insulation that goes in a loft, so not PIR, sort of wool insulation. The idea is when you've got access from the top, you can just drop these over the light and then put the wool insulation on top. So it's not made for PIR insulation. What I've decided on doing is I'm not going to be using these, and instead I'm just simply cutting a hole in the PIR insulation. I've got 75 mils insulation to cut through, and then behind that then I've got another 75 to make up the 150. So my lights are roughly 40 mil thick, so that leaves me enough clearance around. I've actually been using this as a little square template, because originally my idea was to actually recess this in, but because it's 95 mils deep, there's going to be obviously a bit more there to cut in. It's so much faff than cutting into the second piece of PIR. So the method I've got is very, very simple. Literally just line it up like this. I'm going to mark it out, then cut it with a jab saw, and then seal it all around, seal the edges with this silver tape. Once then this is put up to the existing PIR insulation on the roof, I'm then going to foam around before sticking it up. I'm also going to tape over the back of the hole to create a seal, and of course I've got a membrane to go over the top anyway, but just absolute belts and braces on this because I don't want any condensation getting up into that roof space. So I'm using this thermohood for a template. There's no reason really why I'm doing this other than it's nice and square, it's about the right size. I'm going to lay it on. I know where the hole is. I've already pre-drilled the hole for the flex lining it up with the existing piece of PIR, and then just laying it down like this and then marking it around. Put my mask on. I've got my hole now in the PIR. The next thing I'm going to do is seal the edges with this silver tape. I've seen some people cut the back off one of these and put that into the back to create a seal. The issue I've then got is I need that space. So I need to cut all the way through. I need that space for the downlight to allow heat to disperse. So I'm just cutting straight through and then I'm just going to seal it using the existing piece of insulation as a seal at the back there with foam. So the best way to do this particular part is to do it from the side. So all I'm going to do is wrap it up like that. Okay, that's done. So as mentioned in a previous video, we are keeping these purlins exposed, and this one here on the door side is very old. It's probably an original. When they replaced the roof a number of years ago, they replaced the purlin on the other side, so it's very, very different. That's kind of part of the beauty of it, and you can see all sorts of, I don't know, 175 year, I don't know how old this piece of wood is, but you can see all the scars and the age in the piece of wood, which is beautiful. So I'm trying to retain some of that, but I still need to sand it and then put a treatment on. I'm going to be using Osmo oil to cover it. Part of the reason is because we had loads left over from doing some internal doors in the main house. But secondly, it's quite neutral, so we retain the colour, the overall colour of these without affecting the sheen. We don't want anything too shiny, and we want that character really to show through. So I'm using a 60 grade sandpaper with the palm sander, and then I'm finishing off just running over with a 120, and it gives a nice enough smooth, particularly this one over the mezzanine. You are going to be able to touch this, so it sort of needs to be splinter free, relatively splinter free, and also smooth. Then I'll brush it down and then put some Osmo oil on, and I'm really happy with what I've done so far.
So this is the hole that I've cut out in each of the insulation boards like that, and all I'm doing is putting a ring of expanding foam around the back of it to form a seal, and then obviously seal that hole as well with expanding foam once it's up. this is what it looks like once that's all complete, and yeah, hopefully that'll secure it and also obviously make a seal around the hole that the spotlight is going into. If you've enjoyed this video, please like it and make sure you subscribe to the channel to get notified when the next video goes live. Thanks for watching.